Thank you very much for giving me the chance to speak. Like David said, I'm Frank Clifton. I'm the Innovation Strategy Manager at Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks. For those of you who don't know, Scottish and Southern Electricity Networks, we own the distribution system in the north of Scotland and the south of England, including Oxford. Lots of substations, lots of customers, but we don't sell energy. We just put the infrastructure in place to let other people sell energy. Electric vehicles represent an opportunity for us. It's a change the way we've operated for the last 50, 60 years, and dealing with the challenge that will come from them as part of our portfolio of basically having a much more flexible network in the future as we move away from large thermal power stations to a much more localised and distributed energy system, so we can basically have the infrastructure in place to let that happen. And it's one of our key outputs. So what have we been doing to prepare for electric vehicles? I think the first thing we've done 2 or 3 innovation projects now, the largest of which was My Electric Avenue, which was a £5 million project we did with Ofgem about 3 years ago, just finished earlier on this year. And that showed us the impact that electric vehicles have on the network. I won't bore you with the details of the curve, but the red line, the blue line is what a house does, and that's pretty much the consumption pattern in a gas-heated house, has been for the last 30 or 40 years. The red line is a typical charging pattern we found when we did My Electric Avenue, which was roughly 100 EVs plugging into our network across the south. That was the average pattern they got. When you add the two together, you get that big green spike. So basically you're doubling the peak demand in a home. And that's a peak demand figure, something that's been going down for years as people get more energy efficient, and all of a sudden you're doubling it. So that obviously represents a bit of a challenge for us. A good challenge and an opportunity, but it's the size of that peak is what drives the need for investment in the network, and it's that need for investment which largely drives our costs and hence charges to our customers. Okay. So we trialled different charge management tools as part of that project. As I said, it doubles the peak demand, and whilst globally the sort of can deal with a fairly large penetration of electric vehicles, the potential for local clusters to cause issues is there, so we need to be prepared and be able to recognise those so we can take some action in advance and becoming a problem. I think one of the key things is we are absolutely, I think not just SSE but all the DNOs, we want to facilitate this to happen. We don't want the electricity network to become a blocker to this change away from internal combustion engines to lower emission sources of transport. So as I said, when we started looking at a wee bit more detail of what we did, if you looked at a typical network in the street, and I think there's 300,000 LV networks across the country, it's a pretty complicated graph, but the main thing you can see along the bottom is the penetration of electric vehicles, and along the side is the loading on a network. So we can, across GB, we can cope with about 30% penetration of electric vehicles across the country. Above that, we start to get some overload issues, particularly in the winter. So we need to be able to deal with that. Okay, on a local level, we'll get some impacts before that. But in order to fix that problem, because electric vehicles are charging right down out of coalface, people's drives, on the street, that takes a lot of fixing. It means digging the roads up and putting in bigger cables, basically, which is quite disruptive, quite costly. We want to avoid that if we possibly can, especially because that peak's only happening for a few hours during the day. So we looked at different charging solutions to help us avoid that, okay, and to avoid that strain becoming a problem. So what do we start doing? If we can manage the charging, it offers a lot of potential, not just for us managing our local connection issue. Across the whole of GB, if you've got a night like last night when it was really dark, really cold and not particularly windy, the amount of spare generating capacity in the UK was probably pretty small. So if we were able to manage demand down a wee bit, it's got big benefits for the whole UK energy system. And we can do that by, if we can control the charging patterns for some demands, and electric vehicles lend themselves very well to that. It also potentially offers a bit of revenue for users and suppliers. On a local level, we can pay. We've got the potential to pay for the service to manage demand as well if we can avoid some of that reinforcement. And that's an area we're working on quite keenly at the moment to see if we can facilitate that as part of our move to a flexible network. But the key interest at the moment is just to make sure that the network remains safe, the power remains on, and people's supplies are not affected adversely by this new demand being connected. And if we can, we should enable people to access other services from their electric vehicles, okay? So what do we mean by managed charging? It just means some of the time when the demand in a home or along a feeder's a cable in your street. If that's exceeding the red line, we just want to turn it down a wee bit. And that's typically what we'd be doing in a day. It's only for the duration of the time it's above that red line we would want to manage the charging. It's not all the time, and across that 24-hour period there's usually quite a lot of capacity available for charging vehicles. We just need to move the time when people do it. The alternative is we put a bigger cable in, which costs money, which we don't want to spend. And as I said, we can get pretty high levels of penetration across the country before we actually got massive amounts of problems. So we started looking for some quick fix solutions which we could deploy fairly rapidly in advance of us coming along and doing the upgrade sometime in the future, which can take time. All right. So we started looking at managed charging. Through the My Electric Avenue project, we had 100 homes which we were looking to do managed charging on. Initially, we got a few challenges about it, and we weren't quite sure how they would take it. But once we explained what we were doing and the actual impact it would have on people in their charging regimes, most of them never noticed. In fact, almost all of them never noticed. The times we intervened in the charging pattern typically were less than 30 minutes, so it didn't really matter. And we did quite a lot of focus groups to make sure people understood what we were doing and why they did it. And there was different perspectives, obviously, but by and large, once people understood, they accepted it fairly readily. But there was some pushback to sort of recognise that, and it was a fairly delicate situation. You only need one bad experience, and it sets back a long way. So we also identified some of the barriers that stops us having this managed charging process in place at the moment. A lot of domestic charging points are out there at the moment are not capable of being smart, so we can't communicate with them to control them. As I said, customer acceptance of this is fairly delicate, and we need to manage it carefully to make sure we get the messaging correct, to make sure it doesn't get misunderstood. There's no definition of what we mean by smart charging, so we need to get some clarity and standardisation across the industry to get that cleared. And we need a technical architecture in terms of communication and structure to let us do this, so the various components of the system can all speak to one another in a consistent way. And then we need to work out a path for that being adopted across the UK. So where are we just now? We've got a project called Smart EV, which has been run by ourselves and EA Technology, along with most of the other DNOs. We've got a big list of partners: OLEV, the other DNOs, motor manufacturers and traders, Energy UK, who sell the electricity, BEMA, who are a licensor, the trade body for people that manufacture electrical appliances like charge points. I can't remember what UK EVSE is. Citizens Advice, AA, and loads of other, a cast of thousands. And we've come up with a list of requirements to work out how we can implement the smart charging regime across the country. And the outputs for that will be a technical specification, which can be included in the infrastructure, some sort of consensus across the industry as to how this may work, and then get the messaging strategy correct so we can share it with our users and stakeholders to make sure they're comfortable with the approach we're taking and not frightened by some of the incorrect messaging. Okay. So where are we just now? As I said, we've got generally across that, for that steering group, everyone sees the need for managed charging. Particularly for the support for us dealing with that in an emergency situation, because it's an alternative to lights going off or a volts going down or whatever, which is great. But there's no consensus on how, what, where and when we go, so we need to do some work on that. We're developing this technical architecture, and we're going to share that with our stakeholders early next year to see how well it gets received. Fairly confident it will, but that's where we are at the moment. There's a few different options we're looking at. In the sort of heavily regulated world, which I work in, least regrets is the term which Ofgem use for most investments we make, which is kind of means the one which has got the least chance of being wrong. One of the things we're looking at, and I think it's got most potential, is as you may be aware, smart meters are being rolled out across GB at the moment. The first generation are primarily for suppliers to do remote meter readings from your home. The new ones that are going in, SMETS 2, they speak with the DCC, which is the Data Collection Centre. It's a central data warehouse. But we can communicate with these SMETS 2 meters, so we can send some signals to and from them. And we think that, and how those can actually talk to the customer's home area network, we think that's a good potential for us being able to manage charging on electric vehicles if we can have access to those SMETS 2 meters. We also want to do the sort of minimum to make sure that the infrastructure that's already installed doesn't get locked out of possible flexibility solutions in the future. And we also want to develop a spec for a smart charger so that anyone's going forward are able to be used by the energy networks to balance what's going on. So that just means some protocols and some interfaces being developed which can be shared amongst manufacturers and suppliers. So the next step for us is to liaise with the key stakeholders of all these options, and there are quite a lot of them. Let's say we're preparing this consultation for 2018. We've got a few favoured options, smart metering, etc. And we've got to develop and refine those technical specifications, and we're looking for support, and there's further details there. E-Technology are our partner for this project, and they're running the consultation for us on behalf of all the industries. And hopefully that's just about me. So if anyone's got any questions, happy enough to take them.
Do we have any questions from the floor?
Aye, go on.
Do you have any indication of why
The British market doesn't go for a smart home charger? It's quite different, I think, on the continent, particularly in Holland, where it tends to be smart chargers that we go for.
No, is the answer. The energy industry in the UK is very different from almost anywhere else. We've got a higher level of disaggregation and competition in the UK than anywhere else in the world, actually. So the different roles, suppliers, DNOs, TSOs, meter operators, they're so different. And on the continent, it's vertically integrated. It's one company does everything, and the vast majority of other places, we're different. And I think that's probably the heart of that, okay?
My view might be controversial. I'm concerned in case the rapid chargers are going to get downgraded. But my own home, for example, has 4 charge point connections and 3 plug-in cars. I've been doing this for 4 years. I smartly manage my energy use, and I don't have a smart charge point. And I need multiple connections, sometimes concurrently. And I've made my 7 kilowatt charge point redundant. And I don't think you'd be able to tell whether I've got my kettle on or my car charger. And it's about education, it's about getting the education out to homes. And that can do a lot more. And they could change light bulbs. And that would help your peak.
It does, but I think, as I said, the peak demand's been going down fairly consistently for quite a long time, and that's as a result of people changing light bulbs and the lifestyle. But an electric car doubles the demand. It also lasts for quite a long time. You didn't boil your kettle for that length of time. So we can, from the analysis work we've done, we can pick out the electric cars on a street because we know the charge pattern.
There is clustering. There's certainly clustering in our area. It started with solar and it's now the houses because we're instrumental in doing this.
Yeah.
But we can also see, like I'm providing to the grid, I measure the energy I give the grid. I'm giving 6% a year to the grid. So with the net reduction is a 42% energy bill reduction that I'm charging at home. And this is what we've resulted in, over £3,000 of savings in a year. That's all part of this. It's like get people managing their own energy, not having to rely on a smart charger. The car technology is improving and we can set the levels of charging from the cars as well. So
Are these things going to be? We tend to have to work on the worst assumptions. So you go home on a dark night, your PV's not working, you want to charge a car, we need to be able to have the infrastructure in place to let the whole street do that.
and do it after midnight or what?
Well, that's what smart charge is about. It's about moving it from when you come home to after midnight. Aye, that's what it's about. So it's about moving it in time. That's what it's about. All right.
And final question, I think Alistair was the first hand up, sorry.
Obviously you can schedule EVs in the street to reduce the load and bring the peak down. What about other things, like fridge freezers? Are you going that far to be able to set a freezer off for 10 minutes or something?
We could, right? They also don't have the same energy density. There's much less smart appliances about than there will be cars. So in theory we could, but I think the cars are the sort of source of the peak increase, so therefore they should be the places we should target our efforts. If we can use other things through some of the type of projects which Christine was talking about earlier on, where we can get other people to reduce demand for other reasons, if that works, we can do that. But at the moment we're focusing on the cars because they're the biggest chunk we can manage. Okay.
I think we can squeeze one quick one.
I was just going to say, so you can see, the fast chargers, which basically, I mean, is there a particular time of day when people are using fast chargers and you see them picking the back?
What we did when we did our trial project, we monitored the network. We don't, because the demand's been so predictable for the last 40 years, we don't actually monitor the network, all right, so there's no real visibility. The first challenge we've got to get is we want to know where these charge points are going to pop up, so we've been working with Lawrence and his colleagues to get some of that visibility. But when we did the trial for Myolytic Avenue, we fitted monitoring on the equipment, and from the monitoring we could tell very clearly when people were starting to plug their cars in.
But I would say in terms of, as people are rolling in more fast chargers, do you think that well, I would imagine a lot of people will charge on a fast charger on the way back from work, so there'll be a peak at that point.
Well, we mainly did it on residential driveways because that's where we were at the time. Yeah, we've got a bit more work to do for that scenario. Okay, the good thing about the fast chargers is that's new connections, so we'll get notice of them coming on because people want a connection to the network, so we'll get visibility of those. The reason we're concerned about domestic ones is you buy a car, you don't tell us, you just come and plug it in, and all of a sudden demand changes in our network. Think, what's going on?
But why is it automatic that we get a 7 kilowatt charge point, which is adding to the problem, when we could have a lower level or options at a domestic level to choose?
I'm not sure actually, but I think that 7 kilowatts is what came with the cars, and they're getting bigger, if anything, to do it quicker. So we need to be able to deal with them as well. I think we can.
I do like my 7 kilowatt charge point, I have to admit. I'd struggle to give it up. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, thank you.